Hi everybody, welcome back to Empowered Spirit Healing. My name is Paula and today I have the beautiful Bryce from Atlanta. How are you going today?
I am so excited about this episode because we had such a positive response. We started with part 7. We're going to go back to part 1.
Yeah, we're just going to go back to part 1 now. We skipped ahead. We're a little bit excited about the Nordic covenant.
But I wanted to tell you, Paula, because you're over across the country, and this was breaking news here in the United States. And for our subscribers who like this kind of stuff, this is very, very interesting. I asked you when we signed on. It's all over TikTok right now. We have a plantation here in New Orleans, right? That is burned to the ground yesterday. And this is one of the oldest plantations in the United States. According to the main history story, it is one of the oldest. It's called Nottoway Plantation.
Oh my God.
Now, what is it's a venue at this point. What is crazy about this plantation burning? Now, it's obviously haunted. Most plantations are. There, I don't know if the images I reposted on my TikTok that people were pulling up images of the fire. There are so many apparitions in people's pictures.
Oh.
So if you guys go to Esoteric Atlanta on TikTok and go to my repost, I've reposted a bunch of different content creators who snapped pictures, blew pictures up. If you have never seen a ghost before, you will see a ghost now. All right, you guys, editing Bryce here. I'm sorry to interrupt the show, but I just cannot, we got to talk about, I got to show you guys some of these TikToks from the Nottoway Plantation burning. So I'm going to share a screen here. Now, as always, I'm going to have these TikToks linked below. So this is from Kiwi the Beauty. So please go and follow Kiwi the Beauty. We're going to look at her video here. I mean, the apparitions that are caught.
Something paranormal is happening in this photo. If you don't know, this is the Nottoway Plantation that is going up in flames, or went up in flames, because it is gone. It's
gone. Charged.
So the ancestors was there while it was happening. As the flames were going up, the ancestors were there. And I want to show you how paranormal and freaky this photo is. It is not edited. I want to put a disclaimer out here.
There's so many photos.
It's not tampered
so many photos. We're going to go through some of them.
And you can zoom in for yourself. And I'm going to zoom in right here where the archways are, where the flames are happening, and show you.
You guys, we're going to go through more of these videos, but Kiwi the Beauty, she is right. These are not edited photos. They're going around the internet. There are so many apparitions. She's only going to, I think, show 2, but there are so many apparitions that were caught on film during this freak fire that it is wild. So please, guys, please go subscribe to her. Let's watch the rest of the video.
Show you that the ancestors was in attendance. Look at this.
Look at that.
I can't make this up. Again,
you guys see that?
This is unedited. Do you see 2 figures in the archways? I can't make that up. And so when I seen this, I was like, oh my gosh, there's spirits in that plantation. And it's right there. Your eyes, yes, you can make all the excuses you want, but my eyes
is what
are
it is.
blind, and I hope you guys.
It is what it is, you guys. And they're standing there. When you look at all these pictures, they're literally standing there what you gonna do? The fire can't hurt them. Yeah, it's cleansing for them. So they're standing there what you gonna do about it?
I see what I see. I see a woman right here, and I see a man right there.
Yep.
Okay? It's circled. You can see as clear as day in those archways. I know there's people that's going to dispel it, and that's fine. There's always going to be people who are skeptical. But I see very clearly with my 2 eyes, I see 2 spirits. It might be 2 ancestors. I know it's 2 ancestors, and they wanted to be a witness to the flames of this place going down. Okay? Yep. This is a cursed plantation. Yep. All plantations are cursed.
If you guys want me to cover the Nottoway Plantation, we can do a brief history. I'm actually going to go to my TikTok. I'm not signed into my TikTok here, but let me just go. Because I retweet or I share a lot of TikToks that I know I'm going to use. So if you ever go to my repost, that's the word I'm looking for. Repost. If you ever go to my repost and you're like, this is a weird thing for her to repost, I'm probably doing it because I'm going to be using that repost for a show. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff about Annabelle. I can't play some of these videos because there's music associated. Okay, here's one. If there's music associated, I'm going to have to mute it for copyright. Yeah. Okay, so let me, how do I turn? Okay, so I have to mute it for copyright, but you can see a lot. This person has, so who this is, let me make sure I've got the right person. I'm going to have all of these TikToks down in the description box below. You guys, please make sure you go. Did you guys see all those apparitions? Make sure you go and follow. There's one there. They're all standing there. Let me go back because I know I have a really good one of where you can literally see a woman. Oh, this one's wild. You're gonna need to. Did you see that person walk across? Did you guys see that? Isn't that crazy? That's in the burning plantation. Now, let's go back here. There, where is the one with the girl, you guys? There's one with a girl. Maybe I didn't repost that one. I wish I had because it was wild. Or maybe it's this one. Let's just try this one. I mean, it is crazy. I mean, people are saying nothing but smoke playing and fire playing mind games. Listen, bro, Dancing Bear, you need to come to the South. You'll know this is legit if you're in the South. There's one, though, that's like really, if you know the one I'm talking about, guys, if you've seen that one, share a link to it in the comment section below. Because there is one that you literally see the silhouette of a literal woman it's obviously a slave in like 19th century clothes from the 1800s. It's wild. So if you guys know any other great clips that really show the apparitions pretty well, like let me know. Tag it in the comment section below. And please make sure you go and follow all those TikTokers, guys. All right, back to the show.
Wow.
So many silhouettes of, because a lot of slaves from this particular plantation were not treated. We have to be careful of the words we use on YT, but they were not treated very well, we'll say. So a lot of them were, we'll say, deleted from the world, allegedly. And so people feel like this is, from what I understand, nobody knows how the fire started. Now, it is a very old home, and you know, I know that with these old plantation houses, when they add in electricity, sometimes they can get a little finicky, and there could be a very logical explanation as to why it burnt down. But right now, they can't find the reason. So a lot of people suspect it's either the spirits of those that were deleted that did it. But why now? Well, why now? Are you familiar with the doll Annabelle?
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
Pull her up for
that really creeps me out.
So Annabelle, I've covered her briefly along when I covered haunted dolls. And I didn't know this until yesterday, and this, quite frankly, terrifies me. The Annabelle doll from the Conjuring film franchise is currently on tour as part of a Warren's Occult Museum collection. The tour includes stops in San Antonio, Texas, and previously visited New Orleans.
Oh.
So a lot of people, this is Annabelle, a lot of people believe that her presence in New Orleans is what caused the fire. Now, what's interesting too is that around this time when Annabelle was in New Orleans, a bunch of convicts felons escaped one of the prisons there and have yet to be captured, from what I understand. Now, we're filming this at 5 o'clock or 5:40 a.m. on Monday, so if this video goes up later and they have been captured now, I don't know, but a bunch of felons have escaped. I was watching some guys on TikTok talk about occult rituals and the grid of these grimoires, and that they feel like Annabelle is actually, they're taking her on a grid to open up a portal. At this point, I wouldn't doubt it. I haven't looked into that myself, but that is some of the claims that people on the interwebs are making. We know that Lorraine Warren, are you familiar with the Warrens? Lorraine Warren down in Australia, and her husband. She was a very famous, like, I'll show their pictures. Ed and Lorraine Warren. They're both now have since passed, but they were very famous. You know, the Conjuring movie. They were very famous, like, demonologists. There's a lot of controversy around them, as there is for a lot of people who get involved in this line of work. And they dealt with the Annabelle doll. And so they have a museum where they collected a lot of these, and they had Annabelle locked up in a box. And upon their passing, they were like, do not move this doll. Like, do not keep this doll anywhere. And of course, now that they're gone, there's no one to stop people from taking this dog on tour, or this doll on tour.
And so are people just taking this doll around?
Yeah, it's going on a tour. They're
why?
I saw I mean, a freak show. I don't know. You know, these oddities, these obscurities. People pay money to come see it. I saw a video from New Orleans of a voodoo woman filming herself doing a spell to try to get her energy away from New Orleans, and it showed the box that the doll was in. So I don't know if they're taking her out of the box or if they're traveling with her in the box. But regardless, I do believe that there is something, there's some spirit. It's not the doll that's the problem. A spirit is a doll. It's kind of like Robert the doll down in Florida. You know, these spirits inhabit this. And so, and from all intent and purposes, from what Lorraine from the Annabelle, they've made movies out of this. This is a legitimate, horrific spirit attack. Yeah. So, you know,
it's terrifying.
Yeah, and the fact that they're traveling with it, and they're coming to specific towns. And one guy on TikTok again was like, "You guys, they're completing a grimoire, which a grimoire is a spell book. So they're completing some sort of ritual to open a portal with this spirit." It's almost like Ed and Lorraine Warren were like Annabelle's handlers, good handlers, trying to stop her from moving around, or the spirit that's attached to her from moving around. And now that they're gone, and at this point, you know, this is why I shake my head a lot, because so many people believe like the good guys are in control, and it's like we're in a battle right now.
Yeah.
And all is fair in love and war. So we have to be very, very careful. They've been interviewing people who have gone to the museum in New Orleans to see, and a lot of these people are coming back with very bad responses, like, I don't feel right, that I wish I hadn't done that. You know, so I don't know, there's also something to that as well, like taking it on tour to harness other people's energy. I don't know.
I think that's just something that you just don't play around with. Like, it just looking at the pictures of it freaks me out. I mean, I just get the worst energy off of it. It just, like, it puts me in a state of terror.
Yeah, I went, and I'm still like, you know, I'll stay in a haunted house. I'm not bothered by like ghosts. Don't bother me. But when it comes to that type of stuff, I get bothered. Yeah. And I don't want to mess with that. Like, that's not a ghost. Yeah, that's not your grandma who's pissed off. Like that, this is somebody, somebody conjured a spirit, put it in this doll. And I'm guessing whoever conjured that spirit was a very refined witch or warlock.
Yeah.
It seems to be heavy magic that's very advanced. So America, like, let's be on the lookout. So let's be on the lookout, America, and you know, just keep your, you know, and that's hard. Like,
I can't believe that people are taking her on a tour. Like, why would you do that? Why would you want to spread this
chaos.
around,
Chaos
and God
factor.
knows what she's affecting. Like, and I mean, if she did cause this plantation fire, I mean, what else is possible? Like,
And my question is, because like if because you do see all the apparitions, if you, and again, guys, go look on my TikTok or type it into your TikTok feed and it'll all come up. But I kind of have a mixed feelings about the fire and the plantation. Like if it does free those souls, because we know burning is cleansing. We talk about that with exercise a lot. Then good for those souls. But I also have to wonder if this was caused by Annabelle. Are the souls being freed just collateral damage for something else? Like, was there something else in that plantation that was of value? Like, was there information about Tartaria? Was there something there that they're trying to get rid of? And the souls being freed for them was just collateral damage. I mean, I'm happy for the souls being freed, but so it's, there's a lot of questions I still have about this whole plantation. And the plantation burning might not be associated with Annabelle, but it's just very strange that it happened when she was in New Orleans. Yeah, and that all these felons broke out of prison in New Orleans at the same time. Like, this is just kind of weird. And are there such things as coincidences? I don't know, but I always like to keep an open mind that the fire could not be related at all. They might come back and say, hey, it was just faulty wiring, it's just some freak accident, and it's just the will of God at that point, like it's just, but it is, even though a lot of horrific things happen in that plantation, it is sad to lose that piece of history, because for good or for bad, we need that stuff too, so that history, that's why we study history, so it won't repeat itself, and so anyway, but speaking of burning and fire, Paula, did we want to talk about the open house we have this Friday?
Yes, yeah, we have some really exciting news that we're offering one of our very special live classes, and we're going to be offering that for pretty much for anybody who wants to join. Basically, it's going to be on Friday, the 23rd at 5 p.m. Is that correct? Yes. Make sure I'm giving everybody the right date.
Which is 5 a.m. for Paula, but
yeah, it'll be 5 a.m. for me on Sunday.
So yeah, I'm really excited, you guys. We're gonna do. I hope we can do this maybe 3 times a year. Just allow an open house for people who have been. A lot of people do this, and I'm gonna. Marnie Alton does this, and I'm gonna. I think it's a good way to allow people to have an experience with our academy and with our students too, that are maybe considering coming, but they've been hesitant, or they want to make sure it's worth their time or their money. And so we're going to give you this open house and let you come join this class for free, get to kind of see the other students. And, we're going to do a strength training class, but it's all levels. Most of the classes that we have, I try to make all levels because it doesn't matter whether you're lifting 50 pounds or 2 pounds or no pounds. It's just your own body. We just want to make sure everybody has friction and everybody meets resistance. And so even though I say it's a strength training class, if you're totally new to exercise, you don't need weights. You've got your own body. We'll start with your body, right? Or if you have an injury, I would suggest weights just are added resistance. That's it. So like someone like me, I have to add weights in order to find that resistance. But if you're new, you're in that beautiful place where you don't need that extra stuff right now.
Your body's enough resistance.
Yeah, it's enough resistance. Yeah. Dancers don't have weights. Yoga people, we don't really use weights, so you can use your body. And so it's going to be all levels. We're going to start the class off with kind of workshopping some alignment stuff, just to make sure, since I'm not there in the room with you, I want to make sure that we've got questions answered about a flat body alignment. We're going to talk about the axis of the body. We talk a lot about the upward rising energy, the downward, the prana and the apana. But now we're going to be looking at the push to the center of the body, the push away from the center of the body to the pull into the center of the body, because this is also happening, that push-pull between the axis. So we're going to look at that as well. And so again, what we do on the Esoteric Academy is I take exercises that you would see in a gym class, but I incorporate the spiritual teachings from traditional yoga. And so it gives you a different perspective of what's happening in your body, what's awakening the chakras. And so if you want to join us, I want to make it very clear, because I had somebody comment open house. Don't comment open house, you guys, because we can't post the Zoom link publicly. That would be putting our students in danger. So if you want to come to this class, you're going to have to email us. You can email me if you want at esotericatlanta@gmail.com, or Paula. What email's good? Another email good for them? Would you suggest?
Yeah, well, just admin@the esotericacademy.com. That's the best email. Yeah.
I'll put both of them down in the description box below. So either me or Paula, and we'll send you the link privately, so you have that Zoom link for Friday. But if you post a comment, again, I'm just going to reiterate, we can't send you the link if you just comment the video or a post, because we cannot put that Zoom link out publicly. So you have to email us, and we don't have your email. So there's no way for us to give it to you. So you have to email us. You have 2 different emails you can contact us for us to get the link. And for this class, if you want to add weights, if you want to bring weights, I'm going to be using 5-pound weights and 2-pound weights. I could probably, just to give you guys an idea, I could probably go up. I actually went up to 10 pounds yesterday. But for the class, I'm just going to be using 5 pounds because it's easier for me to teach when it's lesser weight. Because if it's really heavy for me, I'm not going to be able to focus on you. So I want to be able to focus. So my weights are going to be a little bit lighter. But if you are someone who's used to doing CrossFit, or you have foundational weight, you can go up as high as you want to go up, as you feel like your body is ready for, or no weights at all. So that's optional for you. The one thing I would say is compulsory, as my teacher would say, compulsory. It's mandatory. We don't really say compulsory in the United States. We just say mandatory. So I always love it when my teacher in India says compulsory. Have a chair. So either a folding chair or a coffee table that can work for a chair, or I will probably be using, don't tell my boyfriend this is a secret, I haven't told him, I've been using his drum. I've been using one of his drums. So his on for mine. So I'm going to have that, which I like because there's no arms, so you can see better from what. So I'm going to be using that. So anything that you can use that can bear weight to sit on as well. And just make sure you have clothes on that you can sweat in, that you're comfortable sweating in. We typically work barefoot because I want you to get your foot to waken up. But I understand if you're dealing with heavy weights, for those who are opting to bring heavier weights and you feel like it's safer for you to have shoes on, wear shoes. Because I know when you get sweaty holding the weights, if it drops, you don't have a shoe on, that can be bad news for your foot. So that's going to be up to you. I'm going to be barefoot, but it's going to be totally up to you whether you want to wear shoes or not. And yeah, we do film our live classes because we put them up on the website for our students if they so desire to watch later. But I promise you will not be filmed. We would never film our students. We understand that this is vulnerable for a lot of people. I'm the one that's going to be filmed, okay? And if you're still uncomfortable with practicing on a Zoom with other people, if you want, you can turn your camera off. Now, you do sacrifice me being able to see you and course correct, but if that's what you need to do to get over that fear, then just turn your camera off until you get more comfortable with having the camera on. Is there anything you want to add to that, Paula?
No, I'm just really looking forward to doing it. And yeah, it's really, really exciting. And it's just going to be really nice for people that have maybe been curious about the Academy and curious about our classes and haven't been sure whether they want to join up or not. But this will be like a good taste tester, and you get to see what it's like working out with Bryce live, and I'll be there working out as well. And
I always say just because it's hard doesn't mean it can't be fun. It's fun, and we have a great. You'll get to meet all the other students. They're awesome. All the other students. We have all levels of abilities, all levels of people who have
all ages. Young people and older people, and yeah, it's really, really good. And then after the class, we stop recording, and then we just have a little chat afterwards, and we just get some feedback, and we just get to know what's come up for different people, because different things come up when we're doing these exercises. I mean, it's happened for me. I've had some emotional stuff come up, and
that's why shalas are special, because what happens when stays in the shala, it's your satsang. Satsang is your community of students, and you're going to end it in a meditation for us.
Yes, I am. Yep, I'm going to be doing a closing meditation for us all, and it's going to be really exciting. So if you're interested in joining, then please email us, and then just in the subject line you can put open house, but that's in the email to us. Commenting below is not really going to be of much help because we need to be able to email it to you. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's just for privacy's sake, because we don't want there's some wackos out there in the world, and we don't want crazies jumping in on the live when we're trying to work with you guys. It's something that's very vulnerable and very special and very sacred. And so so yeah, if you're curious, you want to see what it's all about, join us on Friday totally for free. And you can see what it's about, and you can meet the other students, and we're excited. I'm sure they'll be excited to see you too. So hopefully we'll be able to do an open house maybe 3 times a year to let you guys experience it. So with that being said, Paula, should we get to the good stuff?
Yes. Oh my goodness. I know. It's quite a reading today.
Yep. I'm going to open it here. I think Paula's going to read today because I read last time. Now you guys, again, I'm going to tell you, remind you. We started with part 7.
We just skipped ahead a little bit.
Went right to the juicy stuff. And so, but it was so good. I had skimmed it, but I thoroughly enjoyed. That was one of my favorite episodes so far.
Yeah. Because I really loved it too.
It was so nice seeing Laura's thoughts and like the timeline behind the scenes stuff that we don't see when we're just looking at the transcripts. And so if you missed that, you guys, I'm going to link that down below the last episode we did, part 7. And yeah, so again, this is about I kind of did an episode over the Cathars and the Knights Templar. But in order to go even deeper into that, we have to understand the Nordic covenant. That needs to be understood. And as we know, they've lied to us about history. Paula, I did an episode a few days ago about deja vu. And we talked about how deja vu is like a skip in. So basically what they were saying is that the Lizzies, the 40 negatives, if you're new here, the Lizzies are like the demons, the bad guys. They are able to, they know how to do like black magic, right? So they're able to change our history and create a new timeline. So it's like, and that's what we've been talking a lot about with like Tartaria versus like the history we were taught. The C's will say both are true, and that's been confusing, but it's both are true because one was created by the Lizzies and then made true. And so the deja vu is because of that. Is because we're experiencing kind of like a record skip in a fake timeline. I hope I'm saying that right. So it's
and so like if we experience deja vu, is that like when we're having like a little kind of glimpse into the other timeline? Is that
kind of like a skip,
like a parallel kind of thing happening?
That's how I understand it, but it's all because there's a fake. What I took from this is because there is a fake historical timeline that was created.
Yeah.
And that goes into the Mandela effect, all that kind of stuff. And so if we were living the true historical timeline, we wouldn't have things like deja vu.
Yeah, that little glimpse wouldn't happen.
Yeah. And so, of course, science tries to explain it. It's the bodies, the minds trying to compute programming. But no, it's literally that our consciousness is being pulled in between 2 different timelines. And the one that's real and the one that's fake. But even though it's fake, it's still now real because it's been created, if that makes sense. So
yeah. And I mean, we're living it.
Yeah, we're living it. So it's wild. So we were pulled off of the real one into this fake pretend one. And so it's wild. So anyway, but that gets into, so because we have a fake historical timeline that we're living in, there's a lot of conflicting truths, we'll say, around like the Cathars, around the Knights Templar, around Holy Grail, because we're feeling that friction between 2 different timelines. And so that's why I brought the deja vu. And so in order for us to really understand what we think we know about the Cathars, what we think we know about the Knights Templar, what we think we know about the Holy Grail is going to be challenged because of the Nordic covenant we weren't told anything about. But that's from the real timeline. So anyway, guys, but again, go back and watch after we get done with this, you can go back and watch episode 7 if you want to kind of hear our conversation around the Nordic covenant. With that being said, do you want to go ahead and get started? The Grail quest, the Grail quest, the destiny of man, part 1.
Part 1, we're gonna go
part 2 for us. Part 2 for us. So, all right, girl.
So, I'll just share that. If it's okay, if you just scroll back up a sec, I'll just share that Laura wrote this on February 22nd, 2011. And yeah, and so basically we'll get stuck into part 1.
Yeah. And so, that's a good reminder. So when she writes dates down, you guys, we figured this out in part 7 because I was.
Yeah.
So she does the dates because she lives in France now. So I was confused whether she was doing the American date or the other people, every other person in the world date. In America, we do the month, the day, and the year. So my birthday is 2483, February 4th of 1983. But if I lived in Australia, my birthday would be 4283, the 4th of February. So if you're from another country and that confuses you, just know that the dates are done, the month and the day are switched for Americans. And she's an American, so that's why she's writing the date that way.
All right. I know it's trippy because I'm Australian, so obviously I'm used to seeing the date and then the month and then the year, and it's like, oh, it just takes.
I think Americans are like the only people that do it that way because we have.
Really? How funny.
Canadians, let me know, Canadians. Do you guys do it that way or not? Let me know, Canadians. But yeah, I think we're the only ones, and it's us just being stubborn. We're like, no, we're going to definitely. We're going to do it.
I know, it always takes me a minute to like figure it out. I'm like, hold on, there's not a 23rd month.
That's right. That's how we figured it out. We got to the day, we're like, oh yeah, she's doing it the American way because there's no 20.
That's right.
So
all right. So part 1, preliminary remarks. The quest for the Holy Grail has been the subject of innumerable books, essays, movies, scholarly papers, and assorted other treatments since its formal delineation in the 12th century AD. Its popularity has not diminished one bit in almost 800 years. It's a really fascinating subject. It is an utterly fascinating subject with something for everyone. There are kings and queens, there is loyalty and betrayal, there are gallant knights, coming to the rescue of damsels in distress, evil monsters, cryptic clues to an elusive mystery that can save the world, and a whole host of major and minor characters sure to excite the senses, delight the mind, and feed the soul. When one seriously begins to examine all of this literature, the complicated approaches of the various works and their contradictory results, one tends to hesitate to add anything to so vast a body of erudite composition. There is almost nothing that hasn't been said or written about from one perspective or another. The present writer was always attracted to the stories of King Arthur and his knights of the Round Table. This was only natural, considering my patronymic of birth. Did I say that right? Patronymic.
Yeah, her name, the knight name, which is my
right.
So her knight. So just so you guys know, again, my boyfriend, his last name is not Knight because this comes through his mother's line.
Mm-hmm.
So his Laura and my boyfriend share. It's my boyfriend's 3 times great-grandfather, and I think it's her 2 times great-grandfather, a man named Jesse Knight. And just to give you guys a little bit of background why she's saying this, why she's talking about her last name. The Knights, so Jesse Knight was a descendant of a man named Peter Knight. Peter Knight was a pirate in the 1600s. Who worked, which is so cool. I think that my boyfriend comes from pirate lineage, although he gets seasick and he's terrible with directions. So, but he loves old maps. So, so he didn't get a lot of those genes from Peter. But Peter Knight supported Oliver Cromwell in the English Civil War when the Stuarts were on the throne and the king was off with his head. And so after the Commonwealth with Oliver Cromwell crumbled and the Stuarts were brought back into power, Peter Knight could not go back to England because they were executing people who supported Oliver Cromwell. And so he had to stay in America where he had been a pirate. And so that's how that line ended up here in America. He couldn't go back. And so now think about Peter Knight, the pirate, is that Peter Knight, the pirate, was the great-grandson of a man named Sir Thomas More. You know, Sir Thomas More, this is why she's talking about this. I think it really even goes back to Sir Thomas More. Sir Thomas More if you guys have watched, well, if you were like me and studied English in school, you probably recognize that name from a lot of his papers like Utopia. We still study a lot of his political theses. He was a lawyer under King Henry VII and King Henry VIII, and he was actually executed by King Henry VIII because he would not take the knee to Anne Boleyn. And because he was a devout Catholic. Now, Peter Knight, his great-grandson, was a Protestant. He was a Puritan. But nonetheless, Sir Thomas More's daughter, his youngest daughter named Cicely, which is who my boyfriend and Laura both come through her line, she's the one who had to go collect her father's head off of the Tower Bridge. If you guys know that whole story, that's Cicely. So that's my boyfriend's however many great-grandmothers. She married another man named Peter Knight. So Peter Knight's father was also Peter Knight. So the Knights, obviously they get their name because they are aristocratic. They work for the king. So Sir Thomas More, the More family and the Knight family were friends. They arranged for Cicely, the youngest daughter, to marry one of their sons, Peter. And then Cicely they had a daughter also named Cicely. So there's two Cicely's. And then Peter, it was Cicely, Peter, daughter named Cicely. No, hold on. It would have been his grandfather. So it was Cicely, her son, named after the father. So anyway, it all comes back to this royal aristocratic. We talk about King Arthur, the Knights. The Knights were obviously knights. They were, if you read the papers on the pirate, there's a lot of information on the pirate Peter Knight because he was gentry class. So he was aristocrat. He was the lineage of both the More family and the Knight family. Even though Sir Thomas More was executed, the Moores still stayed in good standing in the aristocratic court of the story behind Henry VIII executing Sir Thomas More was a sad one because Sir Thomas More was his best friend, but he had no choice but to do it because he wouldn't take the knee, right? So there's complications there. But you can see how Peter Knight would have supported Oliver Cromwell because one of his grandfathers was, there's tension there, but he's part of the gentry class. So that's what anyway, to make a long story short, that is why she's bringing this up, because her ancestors come from this arena of people. So do mine subsequently.
And so it'd be very fascinating for her to understand her ancestry.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, and that's also my boyfriend's ancestry as well. So
exactly.
So, all right.
Cool. So thus a great many books on the subject were read and digested at a very early age, but my general opinion of them was that they were fantasies or children's stories. There was no real Grail, and it was just a pretty tale. They were nice to read and imagine in times of idleness, but I felt I needed to get about the real work of finding God. I didn't realize that, in a very real sense, this is the true nature of the Grail quest. In any event, I concentrated many years on this finding God business. For me, it was an essential thing to do, as it was necessary to breathe. I started in pretty basic ways, believing nothing, testing everything. And over the years, I gradually worked my way through the hard sciences to the soft sciences to the parasciences. I analyzed and categorized everything as I went. And the end, I thought I had pretty well run the gamut. How do I say that? Gamut?
Run the gamut. That might be an American slang. We say we run the gamut. That means we did everything. We exhausted it. Yeah.
My categories were more varied and extensive than those of many people, but they were categories nonetheless, and I was pretty satisfied with them. At the end, I had more or less reconciled myself to never really knowing God except through mind, in a sense that is broader than thinking and includes transcendent emotional states. And mind was, after all, as far as I could see, the beginning and end point of everything. Cogito ergo sum. And because I think, I feel, that was all we could know. And that is where matters rested until the events described in Amazing Grace, which is a book that she wrote, isn't it? Yeah. It was through the interaction with myself in the future that the most important clues began to manifest. I will be presenting many of these clues and the discoveries they pointed to as we go along. But just for the moment, let me highlight one of the more interesting breakthroughs. On December 14, 1996, after almost 2.5 years of preparing the ground, the following exchange with the seas, myself in the future, took place.
I want to say too, with this whole, and this is where I push back a lot. And I don't understand why she's never read the Yoga Sutras. She's read so many pieces of work, so many old Vedic, but she's never read the Yoga Sutras because this is, as Patanjali says in the Yoga Sutras, this right here, what she's saying, that the mind is the beginning and the end point of everything, is literally what disconnects us. This thought, this idea that the mind is what is everything, is what disconnects us from God, is what Patanjali is saying. So when we get into yoga studies, we learned, yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is, chittam is mind. So the mind, vritti is like the thoughts, nirodha, nothing. So basically yoga is trying to stop the mind from dominating. We can't stop it completely from working, but we can observe the thoughts and understand that our thinking brain is actually the biggest hindrance we have to our development spiritually. And so through the practice of yoga, we challenge the mind. That's why exercise is so important in that regard, because you're dealing with the negotiations of the mind, of the ego. The mind is associated with the false sense of self. And so that is, I will say, that kind of made me, that's a little cringy to me that she said that, because that is literally the crux of why we can't find God. It's that whole don't believe everything you think. That there's a deeper intelligence rooted with the experiences of the energetic body that does not affiliate itself with the thinking mind. Does that make sense? Oh, did you freeze? Did I freeze?
Right. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Does that make sense? I don't know if I froze or you froze. Do you want to add anything?
It might have been me a little bit.
I guess.
Yeah, I just said the internet connection's unstable. Okay.
So basically that the mind, like, we learn not to believe everything. We think that there's a greater intelligence in the body that's far superior to the mind. That's the energetic, the gut, the feelings, the feeling without logic. And so as a healer, Paula, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very easy to get caught up in the mind and to get very caught up in a lot of the, our mind can talk us into things and talk us out of things, and it can, it really can lead us astray. I mean, even just talking from a time of when I have suffered really badly with depression to the point where I just haven't wanted to be here anymore. Just the kind of self-talk that you can have to yourself is just astonishing. It's just crazy. And like, I can look back at it now quite detached and just kind of think, I can't believe I spoke to myself that way. But when you're in it, you really believe it, and you really believe that people are going to be better off without you, and you believe that it's just crazy to think that, there's just when you're in a really bad depression, there is no hope, there is no light, there's no way out. You just can't see a solution out of that problem. And so I think you've just got to be so careful with your mind and the thoughts that it can have and the kind of self-talk that it can have, because it can be extremely damaging. And so I think that, like, you've really helped me to learn that just being in your body and being more physically present. And then look, we have to do that too in healing work as well. We have to do a lot of clearing out, because there is a lot, especially if you get like attachments and things like that. Like, not all attachments are nefarious. Sometimes it's just you just pick up stuff on the way. You just pick up going about your daily business, going to the shops, do your food shopping and, dropping your kids off at school or doing anything like that. And you can just be picking up stuff, and then you can have these thoughts in your mind that are not actually you. Even on a health level, I mean, if you've got some parasites, we all have parasites in our body, but just certain parasites can get a little bit out of control and they can affect our thoughts. I mean, if you don't have a healthy gut microbiome, that is one of the leading causes of depression and anxiety
100%.
and things like that. So I think it's very, you can't be too much in your head all the time. You have to really kind of just have a break and get out of your head. And that's where physical exercise and meditation and things like that can just be so powerful, because it just gets you out of that cycle. That cycle that can just talk you in and out of things. And I love how you always say that thoughts, your beliefs are not facts. They're just thoughts, and they can easily be changed. I mean, as you gain new information about certain things, and you can change your beliefs so easily. So yeah, I just think it's just don't be too attached to your thoughts, basically, because
and that's, if anybody from the forum ever watches these, like, please read the Yoga Sutras. There's so many questions you guys ask even now that if you actually just read the Yoga Sutras, you wouldn't have to ask these questions. And that's frustrating for me and guys, like I said, two things can be true, right? Like, I freaking love Laura for doing this. I have so much respect, but I do get a little bit frustrated with their neglect of this huge topic. They seem to think that yoga is all tantric stuff, and tantric is the least popular form of yoga, like the least popular. And they don't even teach it when she talks about it in the forum. She's not even talking about tantric yoga in the proper format. She's talking about what she's heard. It seems like she's heard these legends, but she's not actually researching it, because most of the legends about tantric yoga is not accurate. And most Indians don't they practice Patanjali system. That's what I practice, which is actually complete opposite of giving into your desires, we'll say. It's very much as brahmacharya, which is very much self-control and very much and so I would really beg them to, and I do think, she talks about science, and science is great to an extent, but the science we have now is very limiting.
Yeah.
I think I've said this before. Like, we went to our friend's was defending his thesis for physics, and he said the word infinite, and the professors in the room did not like the word infinite. They wanted a variable. They wanted a variable number. And I think we get this idea with our mind is that we're the smartest things on this planet. So therefore, we must have an explanation for everything. But what we know in spirituality is we're actually some of the dumbest entities on this planet, right? And that's okay. Like, that's where we're supposed to be. As Joe Rogan says, it's like trying to explain an iPhone to an ant. And so there's peace in that. There's some things that we're not going to understand because we're not supposed to right now. And so there's infinite possibilities. So if you're someone that's trying to control, I find in my personal life that people who get this way about trying to understand everything, a lot of times they have control issues. They want to control everything versus just letting things be. And so I don't know that about Laura. I don't know Laura personally, but that's just kind of what I pick up with people like this, is they want to have control over everything. And I will say, my boyfriend has said she does remind him of his grandmother, and his grandmother apparently was very controlling. That's apparently a Knight trait. And there's been times he's been that way with me before too, and I've had to point it out to him, and he tries really hard, but that's from the Knight family. They get that way. But I will say too, and Paula, I know you haven't seen this yet because this is dropping after we film this, but I filmed an episode on Ouija boards from the Cassiopeans. So if you're watching this and you haven't seen that episode, I will also tag that down in the description box below. Now, I was blown away by what they had to say about Ouija boards, and after I read it, I was like, well, duh, like, take your own advice. Ouija boards they're not opening portals to other entities. Do you know when you have bad things come up on an Ouija board, you know what it is, Paula? It's something that's always been attached to you. It's always been there. So when you're on a Ouija board, it's what's attached to you that's coming through.
Interesting.
So the C's are basically, my interpretation is they're like Ouija board spirit boards are necessary to understand what's attached to you, because it's always been there lurking. And the minute you have a board, it can come through and communicate. And so they talk a lot about spirit release. So then, you know, if you've got a nasty entities coming through, then you know you need to go do a spirit release. Now, with that being said, and PAULA, as I said, like, you can have someone like PAULA cut the spirit release. So like my friend Cindy does that. But then the next step after that is now you have to fix whatever bait is on you that's attaching that type of spirit. Like if you have, you know, anger issues or jealousy issues or betrayal issues, and you're not working on that, that heaviness is like a fishing lure that's going to just, so once it gets cut,
just attract it back.
Yeah. So once it gets cut, you might be free of it for like a week, but if you don't actually actively go to work on getting rid of that bait, it's going to come right back, or something like it's going to come right back. Which that happens sometimes. And that's a good way for you to gauge whether the work is working or not. And so I wanted to make that very clear. Like, thought that was wild. I'm not afraid of Ouija boards anymore because of that. And after I read it, I was like, well, no shit, that makes sense from like a yoga perspective. Like, of course it's attached to you. Of course it's coming from you. It's not coming from the house. It's not a portal to hell. It's not pulling demons up. It's something that's attached to you that's making itself known. And now you have the power to get rid of it, or not, your choice. Go to healer, get it cut, and then you go to someone like PAULA, get it cut, then you come to someone like me to work on making sure it doesn't come back. Isn't that interesting? Any thoughts on that?
That is just so fascinating, because I mean, we've just been so drummed in, especially growing up, you know, as a Christian, going to church as a child and stuff like that. You're just so drummed into you that things like that are so evil and so bad, and
well, makes you wonder.
They don't want you to be doing that, because then that's going to help you to release.
It's just going to be lurking there, fucking with you and terrifying you, and unless you actually confront it, like it's actually confronting. When you're on a Ouija board, you're literally confronting what's attached to you, and it's only attached to you because you have a bait that it's hooked to, and so. In my perspective, I don't want to scare people, because to me that's like, well, awesome. That means you have all the power. You have the power over that demon. You have the power over that attachment to then release that bait. And so you're right. I think they did that on purpose so that we would stop monitoring ourselves. You know what's that Taylor Swift song where she's like, hey, it's me, I'm the problem?
Yeah, the anti-hero.
Whenever I read that, I'm like, hey, it's me, I'm the problem. Like, that's... when we look at this stuff, we're the problem. Like if you're on a Ouija board and a demon comes through, boo, you're the problem. It's you. But that because you are the problem, that means that you can also be your own savior too.
Well, I think it's very empowering too, because when you're the problem, that means you can do something about it. If somebody else is the problem, what can you do? You can't force them, you can't change them. But if you're the problem, it's like, awesome, I can do something about this now. I can work with this. So
if you do a Ouija board, a demon comes through, just be like, nice to meet you. For letting yourself be known to me, because knowledge is power, knowledge protects. Now we're going to send you packing, my friend, because you're feeding off of me, not the other way around. Yeah. And you don't bite the hand that feeds you. So we're going to cut that bait. So anyway, okay. So anyway, so
fascinating.
So she's talking about, so from December 1996, preparing the ground about, I guess, the Grail. So I'll let you continue.
Cool. Okay, so question, Laura. Okay, let me jump over to this other subject of the number 33 and the number 11. Is there anything beyond what was given on the 11th of the 11th, 1995, that you could add at this time about any of the mathematics or the use of these numbers? Answer: prime numbers are the dwellings of the mystics. Interesting. Question, Laura, what do you mean prime numbers are the dwellings of the mystics? Answer: self-explanatory. Don't you just love their answers?
Discover, yes.
Yeah.
Discover.
If you use the tools given to you. Question, Laura, how can a number be a dwelling? Answer: figure of speech. Planchette spirals several times vigorously. And how interesting that we have a new cell phone company called Primeco.
Not familiar with that cell phone company, guys. So again, this was 1996. Not many people had cell phones in 1996. Do you have Primeco in Australia, Paula?
No, it didn't seem very familiar to me.
We have Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, but I've never heard of Primeco. So let us know down in the comment section. Again, I was only 13 in 1996, so that you were what, 9 in 1996?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we wouldn't have known. So if you remember that, let us know anything about that company down in the comment section.
Yeah. Question, Laura, and how does a cell phone company called Primeco relate to prime numbers being dwellings of mystics? Answer, not for us to answer.
Discover.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God. Word association by group, encryption, cells of monks, prisons, prime number divisible by 1 or self. Question, Laura, is encryption the key? Answer, oh, there is so much here. One example is snake eyes is not so good as 7-11, eh? Question, is that Terry?
Yeah, that's Terry. Yeah.
They are all prime numbers too, 7 and 11. Laura, what kind of documents or writings or what would be applicable? Answer, no, Laura, you are trying to focus or limit the concept, my dear. Think of it, what is the Judeo-Christian legend for the creation of a woman? Question, Laura, that woman was taken from the rib of Adam, that Eve was created from the rib of Adam. Answer, ever heard of a prime rib? Oh my God. Question, Crones, Terry, I hate being in kindergarten and not knowing what the subject is. Where am I up to?
Yeah, we do go for kindergarten, right?
Yeah. Millie's distracting me, aren't you, you cheeky Mel? So answer, so we're saying, yeah, hate being in kindergarten and not knowing what the subject is. Okay, prime rib. We have a prime rib. So answer, what happens in a primary? Question, Laura, an election. You narrow down the candidates. What happens in a primary? Answer, who gets picked to run? Prime directive, prime time. Question, Laura, the first, the best, and? Answer, not the point. Question, Laura, I know that's not the point. Is what we're saying here is that we can use these prime numbers to derive something out of something else. Answer, we told you about the mystics. Question, Laura. Oh, okay, I get it. So mystics, the mystics, the mystical secrets dwell in the prime numbers if used as a code. Answer, name the primary mystical organizations for key to clue system. Whew, okay, what do you?
A lot of math there. A lot
Yeah.
of math. I am such on the other side of the spectrum. I'm more
Yeah, so when it comes to math stuff, it kind of just goes, whoa, over my head.
I will say one thing. I think something that people get wrong and we'll see what they have to say about this, but my boyfriend actually makes fun of people for this. We know that our dates on our calendars are not accurate, like they're man-made.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think that certain dates on a calendar, like the 11/11, are like portal days, but they're not. They're just days.
Yeah.
There's nothing really special about them at all. In fact, if
do you think they would be if we had the accurate dating system?
I think it would be better to look at the astrology to see where planets are aligned, and that could come at any date that we have here on our calendar, because that's just the day that the powers that be have given us to. And I'm not saying that a calendar system is bad. We have to have some. That goes back to the Saturnalian energy. Saturn, the planet Saturn, is Father Time. So Saturn, it represents the matrix. So paying your bills, doing your housework, like these are all Saturnalian tasks. And just because Saturn has been used and abused and twisted does not mean that the original template of Saturn was bad. We have to have organization. We have to have discipline. And that's the good energy of Saturn. So having a calendar system isn't inherently wrong. right? We have to be able, for us to have these Zoom meetings, for us to have our open house, we have to be able to give a date and time for people to all meet at that particular, to know when to come, right, at the same time.
Yeah.
But what I think has happened, my boyfriend tells this funny story about when he first started getting into spirituality. He got all into that, the dates. And he went to one of his teachers and said, I think it was 11/11. He was like, is 11/11 a good day for me to do this particular meditation? Or I forgot what it was, this particular Kriya Yoga practice. And the teacher looked at him and was like, are you an idiot? Any day is a good day to do this. You can find God on any day. So as far as your spiritual development, there's no specific date that's going to be any more potent than the next. When you're ready, when you feel that readiness to take on a spiritual practice or to do a Kriya Yoga or to do a meditation, that's when you do it. You don't have to find the perfect, but as far as like opening portals, like we were just talking about the Annabelle doll, I think they use prime numbers more in the way that they create magic, not calendar purposes. I think does that make sense? They use it in their own sorcery, but not from the calendar, but just in their own type of sorcery.
That makes sense to me, because I mean, the way I see it with the whole calendar thing, I mean, it just makes sense on a logical level that every month should be 28 days.
Yeah. And yeah, it should be. But, for me, like, I feel like that's the last thing we got to fix is the calendar. But I think they did change the calendar to mess with our rhythms.
So then they can use it to their advantage.
Get us off with nature. But as far as like everybody watching for your own personal development, any day is a good day to start. Any day.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So I would, and I love how they talked about, because you guys in Australia have what? A prime minister. So we don't have a prime minister, we have a president, but we have primaries. And I think that's what they're saying, is that the prime, it's like Jordan Maxwell used to talk about the Elohim. So we have like the elders, the elite, the elevator up. They use words to tell you what they're doing, but it's our fault. So your prime minister will speculate for conspiracy purposes, for educational entertainment purposes, not for factual purposes. But when somebody is your prime minister, that might be them telling you who is doing the sorcery. I don't know. Yeah. It's just a speculation of what they're actually telling you. Because that's interesting that the C's didn't just talk about prime numbers. They brought up prime rib, primaries, prime minister, the way that they use these words. So anyway, I can't wait to hear our
what everybody else thinks.
Watch your words though, guys. Be careful with your words in the comment section. Just, you guys know what to do. So anyway, again, this is for entertainment purposes only. Wink, wink, wink. So YT, here's this. We're just entertaining. This is all just fairy tale. It's just, that's all it is. So anyway, all right. Does that make sense? Is there anything you want to add to that, Paula?
Yeah, no, I just think it's all very interesting, but it makes sense what you said. Basically, yeah, I agree. So there had been other clues along the way that hinted at the secrets of alchemy being the great secret of the Holy Grail and early Christianity, that in fact the so-called crucifixion was actually a metaphor for the alchemical transformation, but it was the clue above. Prime numbers are the dwellings of the mystics. That really got my attention when several years later I learned the semi-legendary alchemist Fulcanelli had penned a book with the title Dwellings of the Philosophers. By this time, I was already quite familiar with the story of Fulcanelli and his book Les Mystères des Cathedrals. I'm really not very good.
I'm not either. Is that Italian? The Mysteries of the Cathedrals? Is that what our
either Italian or French, maybe. Cathedrals. Yeah, it's probably Italian, I think. So that when I was told about this second book, my interest was most definitely piqued. After some time and effort, I obtained copies of both books, and there was a particular passage in Dwellings that struck me as entirely applicable to my lifetime of studies, followed by the dynamic interaction with the seas, myself in the future. Fulcanelli writes in The Dwellings of the Philosophers,
I want to stop for a second and go back what she said about the metaphor of the crucifixion, because that is absolutely what it is, right? Dropping the chakras. You have to drop down into hell. The hell of the body is the core. That's where you carry jealousy, love, deceit, those 3 lower chakras, then rise back up. That's that's why we have a course on the Esoteric Academy called the Alchemy of Movement, because you're turning the stress of trauma, you're alchemizing it from a heavy lead to a light gold that's going to give you a different energy pattern. So that's another reason why the original mystics, the original yogis, the original Egyptians, the Druids, the Native Americans had particular physical exercises that they did with their spiritual transformation, because they were alchemizing their trauma. So when we talk about releasing spirits, that's what you're doing when you get rid of that bait. And how interesting is it, Paula, that the church, which is owned by the establishment, controlled by the establishment, Christianity is absolutely controlled by the Illuminati. How interesting is it that they took something that's so personal, that's a personal transformation, and made it something outside of us?
Yeah.
That we then have to go cannibalize.
Yeah, I know.
That's what Christianity is. It's a cannibal cult. But it was originally taught that this was
a personal thing that was meant to be.
It took the power away from you, made you look for something outside of yourself for salvation.
Yeah.
And in that desperation of wanting something for salvation, they turned you into a cannibal by taking communion. It's quite clever. It's quite clever of the Illuminati.
It's very clever, and it makes you feel very disempowered when you believe that something out there has to save you, has to forgive you, and to make us all believe. I mean, I fully fell for it as a child. I just thought I was worthless, because I was this evil person. And I mean, we're just innocent little children going to church and having this drummed into our heads that we have to ask for forgiveness. And I
mean, we see today with other things, like this thing is something that people, the normies, wanted this thing to save them. But we see the exact same behavior from like the truthers, where they're waiting for a magical tanning bed. Medically changed, like med bed, that's going to actually like give them. That's something outside of yourself. You're selling your soul at that point. You're giving your power away when everything is inside of you.
Well, and if you want to stay healthy from certain viruses and illnesses that go around in the world, well, by exercising, eating well, taking care of yourself, finding healthy strategies for stress, there's just so many healthy things that we can do that are empowering, instead of having to we don't need one of them to keep us healthy and save us from, and just basic hygiene as well, like, I mean, so many people died from plagues in the past because they didn't understand about basic hygiene, but we're so lucky these days. We know all about that kind of thing. So
absolutely. You can't tell me that the same God who created the Rocky Mountains made you delinquent.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
and able to fight, different diseases and things that go around. Yeah.
Exactly. So I liked how she brought that up. It's a metaphor. We know that Yahshua was never crucified. That's all the missing. He was never. Why would he? The real God would never do that. Christianity is a cannibal cult. By definition, that's what it is. That's literally what it is, because of communion. And so it's interesting. So anyway, yeah. And if you get tired of reading, just let me know, Paul, if your cat's bothering you or something. Or not bothering you. Distracting.
She's finally gone up to you. Okay. I feel bad for her. The poor thing, she got into a cat fight and she's got a bit of an ulchi on her head, but I've just been putting colloidal silver and betadine and stuff on it, and it's healing really well, but I think that's why she's just been wanting extra attention. She's just like, just love me. Poor little thing.
That's so sweet. Yeah. But her body's going to heal. It's going to heal itself, because she's also created by God. So
exactly. Okay, so with their confused, so this is reading from his book, isn't it? Fulcanelli's
the Italian guy, yes.
Yeah, from his book, just to clarify for people. With their confused text sprinkled with Kabbalistic expressions, the books remain the efficient and genuine cause of the gross mistake that we indicate. For, in spite of the warnings, students persisted in reading them according to the meanings that they hold in ordinary language. They do not know that these texts are reserved for initiates, and that it is essential in order to understand them to be in possession of their secret key. One must first work at discovering this key. And I just want to say there, like, that is just, that's so powerful. And I feel like that is our job here on earth. We have to discover the key within us, and we have to do that by doing the work, by, doing the exercise, by exploring, getting the knowledge, and learning about these things. Somebody can't just hand it to you. And even if somebody was able to hand you a manual at age 20 and just say, look, here's the book of life, this is the key to everything, I just don't think that you would be able to absorb it properly, because
you would misuse it.
It's just you can't just have everything by theory. You've got to physically experience it. You've got to go out and experience the world, and you learn the best way through experience. So yeah, and any initiates over time, I mean, these people that have become, in these secret societies and things like that, I'm not talking about negative ones, I'm talking about positive ones as well. These people have done so much training to get to where they are. It's you don't just learn this stuff overnight.
People want to leapfrog. They want to leapfrog to the end. Even the Yoga Sutras talk about this. The siddhis, so the yogi powers, the powers of like bilocating, levitation, those come at the end of the Yoga Sutras, chapter 3 and chapter 4. You don't even study those until you've been with a student or a teacher for at least 10 years, sometimes longer, because you can't be given that power of the siddhis until you've actually, first of all, you're not going to be able to do anything unless your muscles are toned and your fluid is running. We have that elixir that runs through the body. So there's a very physical element to this. Your body is the conduit of all this stuff. And so it has to be completely healthy and physically fit in order to do this. But also, once you've gone through the fire of 10 years of hard practice, you've gauged a sense of humility and deeper understanding of what's right and what's wrong. Like we talked about that last week, how manifestation, 99% of what people are doing in manifestation is completely negatively polarized.
Yeah.
Because they're not working for it. They're not doing that equal energy exchange. Like it's cool to want a big house, but you can't try to manifest a big house with not actually doing anything to work for it. So if you want a big house, put it out there, but then go and take the offer and ask the universe for opportunities for you to earn it, because that's a proper energy exchange. But if you're just hitting things because you want things without actually putting the work in, then that's black magic. You're taking from somebody else. And so what they're saying, and the Hathars talked about this in one of Tom Kenyon's books, that in ancient Egypt, they had these different levels of schools, like beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And you had to start at the beginner, obviously, and go up. And this guy would come to the advanced school wanting to just come into the advanced school without actually starting in the beginner. And they kept turning him away, saying, you have to start at the beginning. You can't just come. So his whole life, he spent just trying to get into the advanced school, that he never even took a step forward in his evolution when he could have just started. He could have been.
He would have been there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that is so important. And I see that. Like, I'm going to reiterate this again. If you're somebody that's waiting for a med bed, that's black magic. That's black magic. Because what are you doing to enhance your own health? If you're just waiting for someone to bring you a magical little tanning bed tube that's going to like correct everything, and you're not putting any type of effort in to course correct yourself, then you're bordering on going service to self. Because that's selfish. It's absolutely selfish. There has to be,
especially if you're in a developed country where we have so many opportunities 100%. And so many things, whereas people that have just had everything taken from them, and that they're the ones that deserve those kinds of things if and when they become available. I don't know, but it's us that's living in these third world countries, and we just I think we become it's so easy to become entitled, and people to just and just want that quick fix, and that that magic pill that's gonna solve all of our problems, but it just doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't. And there's always a price to be paid, because there's always an energy exchange. there's always an energy exchange. So if you're not willing to properly exchange energy, then the devil's going to come calling.
Yeah.
So I love he talked about that. So if you want to be on the initiate's path, everybody talks about wanting to open up their third eye. But I'm looking at these people, and you can tell by their body that they haven't even touched their lower chakras.
Yeah, they haven't worked on that.
You can't come to the third eye before you actually go down to the base of your body first. That's the crucifixion, right? The going into hell and coming back up again. And so what happens is if you try to work on the third eye without balancing your lower chakras, is that this is never going to be properly aligned, and it's always going to be in delusion.
Yeah.
So there's always a price to be paid. So anyway, how appropriate for us advertising the open house, and we have this reading.
Yeah, I know. That's just worked out really well, didn't
So
it?
this is interesting, you guys. Come to our open house.
Come join our class.
Because this is what we talk about on the Esoteric Academy, is like true spirituality, true magic, true alchemy. It's not what you think it is. It's literally putting on your running shoes and going and running a 5K, right?
Yep. And activating those lower chakras.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bringing vitality to them. Yeah. The push and the pull, through the axis of the body, Sushumna, the tube of Kundalini. So yeah. All right. Sorry, I just thought was too important to
Yeah, no, absolutely. Most certainly these old treatises contain, if not the entire science, at least its philosophy, its principles, and the art of applying them in conformity with natural laws. But if we are unaware of the hidden meaning of the terms, for example, the meaning of heirs, which is different from Aries, strange qualifications purposely used in the composition of such works, we will understand nothing of them, or we will be infallibly led into error. We must not forget that it is an esoteric science. Consequently, a keen intelligence, an excellent memory, work, and attention aided by a strong will are not sufficient qualities to hope to become learned in this subject. Nicholas Grosspalmy writes, such people truly delude themselves who think that we have only made our books for them, but we have made them to keep out all those who are not of our sect. Batzdorf, in the beginning of his treatise, charitably warns the reader in these terms: every prudent mind must first acquire the science if he can, that is to say, the principles and the means to operate. Otherwise he should stop there, without foolishly using his time and his wealth. And so I beg those who will read this little book to credit my words. I say to them once more that they will never learn this sublime science by means of books, and that it can only be learned through divine revelation, hence it is called divine art, or through the means of a good and faithful master. And since there are very few of them to whom God has granted this grace, there are also very few who teach it.
That's why do not go to take teacher trainings. These 200 hours teacher trainings, they are not yoga teachers. That is of the Illumishmati. That is, I believe, my opinion is big Shmarma has hands in that as well. You need to actually find people who have taken the time to study it properly. And that's why there's so few who teach it properly, because everybody wants to leapfrog to the end. Everybody wants to be considered a master. They're not willing to go and actually take the years to do what it takes to do it. And yeah, that reminds me, we have a saying my teacher's teacher used to say, that it's 99% practice, 1% theory. We can sit around here all day talking theory, but until you actually put it into practice, it's worthless. It's like the chakras. You can sit here all day and talk about the chakras, but they're never going to be activated or balanced if you're not actually doing the physical work, right? Because they're in the physical body. Yeah. And so that's what I love how he said. And that's the thing about jhana yoga. So in the yoga discipline, what we're doing right now is considered jhana yoga. We're talking about the knowledge. It's just knowledge based, book based. But eventually jhana yoga, once you understand that, has to be let go of, because then it comes into action. And so he's saying, he's echoing what all these other spiritualists are saying. So I'm going to reiterate, don't think you can sit on your lazy butt all day and just talk about the chakras and read about the chakras and something is happening. Nothing's happening. You're just inflating the mind, the ego. Once you have the mind knowledge, once you have that jhana yoga, and you understand the chakras from an intellectual perspective, intellectual don't want. We only want practice. So then you go, okay, I know what this is. Now I got to put the books aside and I actually have to go and do a practice. I actually have to go and bring that vitality and sweat and put this theory into motion. That's the initiate's path. And the initiate's path is not easy. It's very hard. That's why so few people do it.
Yeah.
That's why so many people want to leapfrog to the end, right? So that's why so many people get triggered when I tell them to go exercise, because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's the easy way. Listen, your soul didn't come to earth for the easy way.
No.
So give yourself a little bit more credit. Baby girl, you can do hard things. Baby boy, you can do hard things. Promise, you can. Promise. So anyway.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. Other reasons for the difficulty that we encounter in deciphering the enigma. Here is the first and true cause why nature has hidden this open and royal palace from so many philosophers, even those gifted with a very subtle mind. Because straying since their youth away from the simple path of nature through through conclusions of logic and metaphysics, and deceived by the illusions of the very best books. They imagine and swear that this art is more profound, more difficult to know than any metaphysics, although ingenious nature advances in a straight and very simple step in this path as in all the others. Fulcanelli, 1964, 1999. So Laura says, truer words have never been written, and that is why it is important to read all of this series, as I get it written, that is, because the answers truly are simple. And in a sense, I knew them long ago, only I didn't believe them or understand the inner workings and hidden mechanisms because of the very fact that it was right in front of my face. Isn't that always the way? Yep. At approximately the same period of time, I had an unusual dream that I discussed with the seas. The date, interestingly, was the 8th. Oh, yeah, I keep getting muddled up because I'm so used to the date.
1998. August.
Yeah. Question. Okay, I dreamed that I was in this castle-type place with many rooms and many people. In one of these rooms, a sort of main room, there was a head of the family. I understood that all the people present were members of the family with greater or lesser connection to the head. This person was in a large chair and all these people were there and all this activity was taking place and it was going on around him, but he was not paying too much attention to anything. I couldn't tell if he was bored or sick. There seemed to be some sort of plots and subplots being whispered all around, and I became aware of a plot to kill this head of the family. I was horrified and made a decision that, no matter what, I had to go to him and tell him this and offer my help. When I did, it was almost like it gave him new life. He perked up and became more interested in all his surroundings because of this information I gave him. He invited us to go to a private room to have a meal together. The funny thing about this guy was that he kept alternating between being black and white. 1 minute he was pure Aryan type, and the next he looked like an Egyptian. One thing that was outstanding was the clarity of his skin, whether black or white. So we went to this room, a small intimate room with a pair of windows, and 2 little twin children, seemed to be girls, came with us. I was aware that they were his children. They too alternated between being black and white. We sat at the table and there were simple plates and simple food. I was surprised that it was so simple and plain, and I wondered about it and asked a question. I was told that pomp and circumstance was only for the impression on those who do not know anything, but that it is the responsibility of the members of the blood to be careful in what they eat and their personal habits. That's interesting. We ate, and then I was told that I would be escorted back to our vehicle because I must return for the time being to prepare myself for some task. It was also said that because of my decision to do what was right, that I had demonstrated that I was the chosen one who would become the heir in some way. Now our vehicle had been left at the end of a road that we had travelled and had then run out, and we had been taken to this castle by some miraculous means, so that we had to be taken back to our vehicle. We were warned that there would be dangers in returning. There was some sense of danger in our travels back home, but we made it, and then there was the sense of waiting for some sign that would come in the future. The rest was unclear, and I woke up. What can you tell me about this dream? Answer: near-death experience indicates resolve. Question: whose resolve? Answer: try to interpret laterally. Question: what does laterally mean? Answer: patience charts course, not pressure. Question: another funny thing is that a few days later we bought this book about the Holy Grail, and it talks about dreams of people switching between black and white, and about birds that represent this concept, such as the magpie, the balance between good and evil, and so forth. Answer: theme presents itself in balance cycle. Search for grey middle ground when tempted to choose either black or white. Question: anything else on this? Answer: no. It's very interesting.
Fine line between negative polarity and positive polarity. What does it take to go positive? 51%. That's it. Because we're already negatively polarized bodies. So
yeah. So these remarks were curious and obscure, as has been the case for the most productive of the clues from myself in the future. How does one interpret a dream laterally? The term itself means to more or less go off in an oblique direction. For example, a branch of a tree is considered to be a lateral part of the tree. In mining, a vein of ore that drifts off the main lode and then runs parallel to the main vein is called a lateral. So if I was to interpret the above dream laterally, I should think that it was sort of parallel reality to my own. Either that, or I was to await the sign, and then I myself would move on to a lateral path. There was another most interesting passage by Fulcanelli in his opening chapter of Dwellings of the Philosophers. Yet we know that art, the higher expression of civilized humanity, can freely develop only under the cover of a stable and sure peace. As it is with science, art cannot exercise its genius in the atmosphere of troubled societies. This applies to all elevated manifestations of human thought. Revolutions, wars, upheavals are disastrous to them. Such strong reasons urge us to accept with great circumspection the medieval events recounted by history. We confess that the description of a sequence of calamities, disasters, and accumulated ruins over 146 years seems to us truly excessive. Something is oh my God, I cannot pronounce today.
That's
inexplicably amiss here, since it is precisely during this unfortunate 100 years war, which lasted from 1337 to 1453, that the richest buildings of our flamboyant style were built. It is the culminating point, the apogee of form and boldness, the marvelous phase where spirit, the divine flame, imposes its signature on the last creations of Gothic thought. Great adepts give hermetic truth a soaring new flight. What ardor unfolded in all the branches of human activity, and what wealth, what fecundity? Have you seen that word before?
Never heard that word.
Unity. What powerful faith, what trust in the future transpire beneath this desire to build, create, search, and discover in the midst of a full-fledged invasion in this miserable country of France, submitted to foreign domination, and which knows all the horrors of an interminable war. In truth, we do not understand.
I'll push back on her a little bit. The 100 Years' Wars wasn't necessarily a foreign invasion, because the French and the royal family are all related. The line in 1060, William, a guy from the coast of France, right by the English Channel, conquered, and that's the royal family today. So that's the royal line I come from. They're French. French people, which are also Germanic people, have blonde hair, blue eyes. So that's why. So people from England who have blonde hair, blue eyes only have that because of the French influence coming from that invasion. People of the British Isles genetically usually have dark eyes, dark hair. So even though the peasants might have been caught up in the battles, but it was literally the same family fighting each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. I mean, up until King Henry VIII, the royal court in England spoke French. Anne Boleyn spoke French. She didn't really speak English. She spoke French.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I remember reading about her and how she went to France for a time.
But most of the kings also spoke French because they were French.
Interesting. Yeah, I did not realize that. Okay, and thus is elucidated the reason why our preference remains vested in the Middle Ages, as it is revealed to us by Gothic buildings rather than in the same period as it is described by historians. For it is easy to fabricate texts and documents out of nothing, old charters with warm patinas, parchments, and archaic-looking seals, even a few sumptuous books of hours annotated in their margins, beautifully illuminated with locks, borders, and miniatures. The Montmartre district of Paris delivers to whoever desires it, according to the price offered. The unknown Rembrandt or authentic Teniers. Falsification and counterfeiting are as old as the hills, and history, which abhors chronological vacuums, sometimes had to call them to its rescue. Dwellings, excerpts, yeah. Oh yeah, it just says the pages. Yeah, very interesting. So at the point in time that I read above, I was already well prepared to recognize a series of comments by someone who knew. The many clues given by the seas that I had followed with diligence had already taught me that it is not enough to be skeptical of a given source, but that one must certainly have the nature of a bull terrier to obtain any truth in this reality of lies and cover-ups. We know that this question, why is life the way it is one we don't like to face. But when we awaken late at night, alone in our thoughts with no distractions of daily life to fill the void, we are face to face with our
Existence.
oh my God.
If you need to read, if you're tired.
Yeah, I think you might need to take over. I'm just like,
I know you're tired. You've had a long day. It's bright and early for me, so I'm fresh. So our existential dilemmas, and it is a terrible silence in those moments of cold clarity. The bleakness and futility of our existence in cosmic terms rises up to confront us as it has confronted all of humanity throughout millennia. Yeah, that's called the ego death. Looking back at history, we see that to escape this monstrous dark night of the soul, again, the ego death, human beings will accept any answer, any religious belief or philosophy that may be offered, because the cold, abyssal silence that follows the question must be filled at any cost. And the sad fact is, there are plenty of people willing to try to convince us that they have all the answers to our questions. These blind leading the blind can be found in the pulpits of nearly every church across the land, and the seminars and lecture circuits of the New Age. Remember, guys, New Age is New Age is a three-letter agency term, just like conspiracy theorist. No one in the actual arts calls it New Age. My teacher never called it New. That's a 3-letter agency word. But these answers generally consist of confusing the discernment of reality with personal opinion, which results in a judgment upon reality by refusing to acknowledge it as it really is. And those parts of reality that are not acknowledged have a way of biting us. 100%. What you resist persists. Those who did not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Amen. At the present moment in history, everybody and his brothers are either looking for King Arthur and the Holy Grail or are waiting for aliens to land on the White House lawn so they can kick the tires of the UFO Cadillac. I have hundreds of books on these subjects and over 24 recent books, all of which claim to have discovered that the two subjects overlap and that the Holy Grail is really a bloodline. And the bloodline is of special people, are offsprings of alien beings, alternatively good guys or bad guys, depending on the orientation of the writer. Now, she put special people here in quotation marks because that's negatively polarized.
Yeah.
To believe that some people are
special and others aren't.
Yeah. I was actually shocked she put that in her dream. She was like the chosen one, because that's very negatively polarized, to believe you're the chosen one or to believe in a chosen one, because we all have a dharma, we all have destiny. But maybe she included that because it was part of the message of the dream. I don't know. Most of the conclusions of the current raft of research points to aliens from Mars having come to Earth in the distant past, and that they are part of the real gods. The current fad of focus on the pyramids and the Sphinx have led them all to conclude that the roots of all this is the great mysteries of Egypt, and that the Egyptian gods are the originals and true gods. They are advanced and superior human beings from the stars, i.e. Mars, and they originally had a great civilization there that was destroyed, and they came to Earth and gave impetus to the formation of our new early civilizations. The stories and sort of bifurcate between these gods being truly physical as humans are being netters or principles, as in purely ethereal beings who occasionally begin to manifest on Earth. We do know that the Elohim, the God of the Bible, the demiurge, the lower gods that a lot of religions worship, are actually extraterrestrial. We know that at this point.
Yeah.
People of Earth got confused. That's why they called demiurges. They're not actually God, but they can do more than they do. So they were perceived.
Yeah, they just more.
Yeah. Do you know who the seas tell us came from Mars?
Sorry?
You know who the seas tell us came from Mars? Chimpanzees.
No. Oh, really?
Are Martians, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that cool? Yeah.
Yes.
So that's what Martians, they're not little green men, guys. They're very
they're not little green men, they're just chimpanzees.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the opposing parties either declare the serpent race to be the representation of a benevolent, scaly gang of civilers who have humanity's best interest at heart, as in Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End. This group promotes a reptilian bloodline of Christ and proposes that a descendant of this line is going to come along, a new Christ, who will lead us to a true enlightenment if we prepare ourselves according to any number of bizarre proposals. That's negatively oriented. You're waiting for someone to save you outside of yourself, a particular bloodline that you perceive as better than you. That's negatively polarized. Let me tell you what you watching right now. Hopefully this will make your day. Surprise, surprise. You're the Christ. Boo, you're the Christ. You're the return of the Christ. All of us are, right? Mm-hmm. This group tends to see the alleged hyperdimensional reptilian race as physical like us, and not, as we maintain, as hyperdimensional creatures of variable physicality. The other groups tell us that these reptilians are purely demonic, ethereal beings who can descend into a person, or a human being can host a reptilian and shapeshift into this form. Only if they have genetics, mind you, and become temporary reptilian themselves. The Queen of England and many of the leaders of the world have been listed as being of this latter type, with tales spun around them that pass boundaries of bizarre into lunacy. And they do say that, especially if you have a soul, if you're someone that has a soul, it's very unlikely you're ever going to become possessed. The only people who can become possessed truly are organic portals, people without souls, because the reptilians don't want to have to fight for the space. And if you have a soul, they're going to have to deal with a fight for the space of the body. So if you're a soul person, you don't have to, you can still be influenced, but you don't have to worry about possession. And even if you're an organic person, you can only be possessed if you allow it in, right? So don't let that kind of rhetoric scare you, because that's very rare. And it's only if you have a soul, it's less likely to happen. Because Lizzie's are very smart. They're very nefarious, but they're also kind of lazy. And they don't want to have to put up battles where they can avoid a battle. So they don't want to battle for your body. So there are any numbers of variations on these themes, just about every preferred belief system from A to Z represented. In all cases, they have the chief future of designation of this or that group of physical human beings as being conspirators or guardians, Masons, Rosicrucians, Templars, Illuminati, take your pick, or a strict ethereal concept of the conspirators or guardians. In the first case, humanity is divided into good guys and bad guys. In the second case, people are encouraged to place their faith in the ethereal good guys in order to be saved from the ethereal bad guys. At the end of it all, there is the strangest thing I've ever observed. They all seem to be focused in one way or another on finding the Holy Grail, just as Schmittler was obsessed with discovery of some material object that would give him total and complete power over the world. So do these different groups have similar objectives in mind, discover the Grail, and this is important, and we can't say his actual name, guys. So Schmittler, we know he was into like the Nordic Aryan stuff, which we're going to get into with the Aryan Covenant and what maybe he knew about certain particular races' abilities. Doesn't make this race better than anybody. It's just a particular genetic thing that happens with the Nordics. I thought about this for a long time. Why in the world is there an obsessive concentration on reptilian beings and the Holy Grail? Is it a distraction or is it an agenda? If it is either, what is driving it? I realized that the only way to come to my ideas about that would be to investigate the matter carefully. As we have attempted to get to the very bottom of many of the claims of the experts in various fields, we have discovered that there is much data that is completely suppressed by this system. There is also a great deal of data that falls under the control of government agencies, and access to it is severely limited. I discovered that there is indeed an effort on the part of various government agencies to investigate the matters the C's have indicated as being important, but that the results are generally unavailable to the public. They consist of the technical papers stored on microfiche, buried, I don't know if I said that right, buried in research and special collection sections of university libraries. Some of it makes its way into print, but the volumes are so costly that the researcher in these fields must be well financed to be able to afford them. Those things that make it to print in technical journals are coached in such amazingly obtuse and opaque terminology that one must be as sharp as a Damascus sword to cut through the nonsense. And it is almost a given that only a trained scientist who knows the hidden jargon will be able to decipher the code in the various disciplines. At the same time that one begins to deeply investigate this matter, one comes across again and again what can only be described as cointelpro. The presence of cointelpro operation also goes far in explaining why, when the sincere researcher enters this field, he or she discovers only lies, lies, and more lies, confusion and disinformation, and it is clearly deliberate, promulgated by religions, metaphysical mavens, and new age impersonators, contilpro agents, all of them, and that's how I absolutely see the truth of the world.
Yeah.
100%. The objective seems to be attack and neutralize those who are seeking the answers by marginalization, by conversion to wild beliefs that later fall through, like I just said, Nasara, medbeds.
Yeah. And then people just think you're an idiot for believing this.
Yeah.
You know, and it's even happened to me about certain things, you know, you're believing it and then people just think you're an idiot.
I didn't know this. My boyfriend filled me in. The whole concept of a med bed has been around probably since the early 2000s. So
yeah, right.
There are people who've been waiting for 25 years for this fictitious tanning bed to come save them. Meanwhile, in these past 25 years, they could have literally just saved themselves.
Yeah.
Because their body has everything it needs to heal itself. But they've been getting sicker and sicker and fatter because they're waiting for this magical tanning bed. It's going to come in and make all their problems go away, right? So these are wild beliefs that fall through, and perhaps even by generating conditions that force legislation against alternative research. Of course, we come back to Fulcanelli's declaration. It is easy to fabricate text and documents out of nothing. Falsification and counterfeiting are as old as the hills and history, which abhors chronological vacuums. Sometimes had to call them to its rescue. And from this we realize the compelling truth of the statement. They will never learn the sublime science by means of books, and that it can only be learned through divine revelation, hence it is called divine art. There are very few of them to whom God has granted this grace. And again, it's an energy exchange. You have to do the work. You have to, in order to receive the information through wisdom and experience. It is clear only in retrospect that the Cassiopean experiment has been amazing grace. And again, the very terms of this dynamic are described by Eugene Cancelet in his preface to the second edition of Fulcanelli's The Dwellings of the Philosophers. According to the meaning of the Latin word adaptus, the alchemist has then received the gift of God, or even better, the present, a Kabbalistic pun on the double meaning of the word, underlining that he thus enjoys the infinite duration of the now. That's big in yoga too, being in the now. In the kingdom of sulfur, there exists a mirror in which the entire world can be seen. Whoever so looks into this mirror can see and learn the three parts of wisdom and the entire world. We are you in the future, as the Cassiopean said. We transmit through the opening that is presented in the locator that you represent as Cassiopeia, due to the strong radio pulses aligned from Cassiopeia, which are due to a pulsar from the neutron star 300 light years behind it, as seen from your locator. This facilitates a clear channel transmission from 6th density to 3rd density. As part of my own process of initiation, I began to write the Wave series. The writing of this historical review of religion, metaphysics, and general occult knowledge attracted some extremely negative attention on me. There were clearly focused forces that did not want me to proceed either in informing others of what I had discovered or proceeding with my own quest. Observing and experiencing the operations that were activated against me actually led to a deeper level of initiation, which is recounted in the Adventures with the Cassiopeans series, which have now been included as the continuum of the wave available on the site. I agree with that. I mean, look what's happened to my channel. They will do everything they can to stop you. But like Laura, it just pisses me off even more, and I just keep going.
Yeah.
So that's one thing Laura and I have in common. I think we're stubborn and we're petty. We know what you're doing, and we're just going to keep, it's not going to work. So failing to co-opt or corrupt our work, the agents of disinformation, who curiously have made a cottage industry of claiming to be the revealers of the work of Fulcanelli, resorted to trying to destroy us professionally and personally, and with libus accusations of cult and criminal activity. These attacks clearly had one main objective: to sidetrack and sideline the quest. I had to choose, spend all of my time defending myself, or simply ignore them and finish the job I had already started. I began to understand clearly why the adepts of old had operated in secret. You start to understand that too. Yeah. That's why we can't put the Zoom link out there publicly, guys. You have to email us. It's a safety purpose. But I also had an internal moral interpretive to break the hold of the necessity of secrecy. Fulcanelli tell us the oblast of Damarian Sir Tygus is the tangible expressive image absolutely conforming to tradition of the double terrestrial calamity, of the conflagration of the flood, of the terrible judgment day. This monument seems to be erected on the plane of the ancient hexagram, a figure composed of the water and fire triangles, which is used as the signature of the physical great work and of its result, the philosopher's stone. Two sides of the pyramid are exactly aligned on the highway's north-south axis. On the southern side, one can notice the image of an old oak sculpture in bas relief. If we question the oak of stone, it can answer us that times are near, but it is figurative foreboding. It is the revealing symbol of our times of decadence and perversion. And the initiate to whom we owe the obelisk carefully chose the oak tree as a front piece for his work in the fashion of a Kabbalistic prologue, in charge of pinpointing in time the ill-owned period of the end of the world. The characteristics of this period, which is ours, are clearly indicated in the 24 chapters of the Gospel of Saint Matthew. And the Cassiopeans did say that the Gospels were written by the Greek three-letter agencies back in the day to try to control people. I'm just going to put that out there. That's what the Cassiopeans have said. Yeah, it was written by the controllers of that time to control you, to make you look outside of yourself for your own salvation.
Makes sense.
Yep. These frequent geological tremors accompanied with unexplained climatic change are symbolically expressed by the oak. This word, whose French pronunciation, I'm not even going to try that, is list, phonetically corresponds to the Greek word chem and designates the common goose. The oak tree, because of this fact, takes on the same value as the expression of the old goose and the secret meaning of the old law, heralding the return of the ancient covenant of the reign of the god Saturnalia, paradise, and of the golden age. Interestingly, we talked about Saturn earlier with the prime numbers. In the time of the golden age, the regenerated man knows no religion. He respects, honors, and venerates God in this radiating globe, which is this heart and brain of nature, and the dispenser of earthly goods. In the midst of the radiating celestial body, under the pure sky of a rejuvenated earth, man admires the divine works without outer manifestation, without rites, without the veil. The golden age, a solar age par excellence, has for cyclic symbol the very image of the celestial body. The hieroglyph that has always been used by the old alchemists in order to express the metallic gold or mineral sun. On the spiritual level, the golden age is personified by the evangelist St. Luke, the Greeks Luca from Luchnos, light lamp torch, lux, lucis in Latin, brings us to consider the gospel according to Luke as the gospel according to the light. It is a solar gospel, esoterically conveying the journey of the celestial body and that of its rays back to their primary state of splendor. It marks the dawn of a new era, the exaltation of the radiating power over the regenerated earth, and the rerun of the yearly cyclical orb. Interesting that she's citing this when, again, the C's have already told us that it's all three-letter agent propaganda. So, should we, how are you for time, Paula? Because I know you have to.
Yeah, should we maybe just skip a little bit of that? Oh, okay, yeah, we're just right near the end.
Almost at the end. So I'm gonna, guys, this is gonna be down at the bottom so you can read what we're skipping. I'm gonna skip over that. And the mysterious, let's go ahead. I think we get let's read from the iron. The age of iron has no other seal than that of death. Its hieroglyphic is the skeleton bearing so they're talking about the astrology of time and how time works. We get that, right? Like that's what they're talking about, the different ages of discovery with the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail has offered some sense of salvation for people, but we have all these different perspectives on the Holy Grail, some more negatively polarized, some more positively polarized. If we look at the Holy Grail from an initiate's path of true spirituality, it's in you, boo, you're the Holy Grail. But if we look at it from a negative polarity, we're looking for a bloodline of someone to save us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
As Fulcanelli told us, it is the clash of ideas that the letter dies and the spirit is born. That is to say, the knowledge is in the meaning, not in the words. Time after time, the esoteric tradition is misunderstood in this way, and so it dies. Then when the time is ripe, it must be either restored or rephrased. In the meantime, the meaning is kept alive in communities or schools symbolized by the name Ark, of which Noah's Ark was one. They will never learn the sublime science by means of books, and that it can only be learned through divine revelation, hence it is called divine art, or through the means of good and faithful master. And since there are very few of them to whom God has granted this grace, there's also very few who teach it. Again, that's still accessible to you guys. It's 99% practice, 1% theory. I realized that to interpret my dream laterally, I was facing a choice that had to be made by me and me alone in the ambience of my own time. Every era is an ambience which holds within it the solutions to the problem specific to it. Man can choose his response according to the level of his understanding and being, and so the ambience that exists at the present time, at the end of an epoch, opens up possibilities for man of all planes. As the adept of my time, I could clearly see that it was my responsibility to initiate a non-linear action of truth and openness. This was explained by Fulcanelli when he said, and I'm going to skip that, guys, because it's cyclical. It's not linear, right? Luke was the beloved physician and the bringing light to the world mandates shining in the darkness, even though the darkness comprehends it not. Because it so happened that at this particular point in history, in this particular reality that so many of us seem to be sharing, there are these communicants from the future calling themselves the Cassiopeans, who just happened to arrive on the scene after a lifetime of searching for the way back to God by yours truly. And as it happens, yours truly is a being of particular makeup with a certain inner characteristics that just happen to include a powerful will and a drive to serve others without violating their free will. She also speed reads, has a near photographic memory, and picks up the skill of typing fairly rapidly along the way. Sounds pretty much like the ideal person for said beings to contact, right? If you want to get the message out, look up the Walking Encyclopedia Workaholic Blabbermouth. They did. At the same time, and I will say that's one thing I push back with her. She's too much in the books. She's got to pull back, which is interesting. She's writing about that right now. She's missing that. She's missing that. And you can tell by some of the questions she even asked now that there's still a huge part of her practice that's missing. At the same time that this was happening, a world-class physicist or a similar makeup was searching the globe for the same answers, though in a different but complementary mode. And so at this particular moment in history, science and channel meet and find extraordinary similarities of being from their respective inner drives, right down to the skin tone and eye color. It is almost as if they have two halves of the exact same being. Not only that, but she is quite taken aback by the idea of metamorphosis of the earth, and he knows the how-tos of nonlinear dynamics in the complex system. She is looking for the spiritual arc, and he is Arc. That's her husband, her second husband. He asks the most boring questions. Yeah, his questions, they're so fucking boring. Sorry, Arc, but it's true, man. And I think you know that. I think that's why you always volunteer to go last, because people like roll eyes. He is looking for the essence of existence in the ether, and she is Laura, or the air. He is the Florence, and she is Florida. I'm sorry, this is getting a little cheesy, Laura. You're writing a love letter to your husband, and you're putting a public. I hate when people do this. This makes me so uncomfortable. Next thing she's gonna be like, "He's my twin flame."
Yeah,
girl, like you're just married. Like I can do the same thing for my boyfriend, but I'm not gonna do it because that's just not necessary. He's looking for gravity waves. She's looking for the explanation of gravity waves. He's deciding to create a web page with an image of, the Pyrenees. She's looking for, and the Pyrenees are interesting because that gets into the more RH negative, led by a painting of the Arcadian shepherds, urged by said Cassiopeans, who tell her that her life will change subtly and dramatically once she gets hooked up to the internet. And his full name is Arcady. Can those guys get any funnier? And what is even more important, both of these individuals are constitutionally incapable of taking anybody's word for anything. And they don't like the way something is. They find out why and then do something about it in a nonlinear way. So we find ourselves at this point at the jagged edge of the two crustal plates where there is a moment of critical energy influx, and we know that there is going to be an explosion, and the results are unpredictable lateral vein of a bunch of the universe. All right, so guys, I know you've got to hop off soon, but I guess Thursday, Paula will do the second part.
Yep.
Thoughts on that before you sign off?
Wow. It's very, very interesting. But I think I just really take away from that the importance of really going within, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like that the Holy Grail was within us. We are it.
We're the Grail. You have the choice to make. You can either seek salvation from something outside of yourself, but that's going to enslave you. And that's a choice you can make. You can make that choice to be enslaved to a cannibal cult like Christianity, or enslaved to the truther cult, waiting for the white hats to rescue you, enslaved to the med bed, thinking that this magical tanning bed's going to come and like fix all your problems. You can
all these magical pills and
these things. Right. You can be enslaved to these things. Or you can choose to be the master of no, or the servant of master to only yourself, servant to no one. That not letting your mind be your master, but you be the master of your mind, and actually doing the work for yourself and facing that fear. And know, like she said, when you start to do that, when you start to pull away from the pattern of enslavement, you're going to get pushback. The Emerald tablets speak about this too. When you're on the proper initiate's path, when you deal with stuff like shadow banning, when you deal with, because If you weren't, then if I wasn't right in what I was saying, I would already be at like 200,000 subscribers.
Yeah, easily.
Like $20,000 a month off of AdSense. But no, I'm not. So, because they don't want this getting out. So that gives you a good indication. Those spiritualists out there that have huge followings.
Yeah.
Critical thinking. Why do they have huge followings? My favorite, not my favorite, the spiritualist online that drives me crazy the most. She's so delusional. She talks about shadow banning, but then she'll have 200,000 views per video. Girl, you're not shadow banned.
Wow.
Like, that's not shadow ban. Look at my channel. No. Shadow ban.
Yeah.
Like, look at my numbers. Mm-hmm. I think she uses that to try to trick people to think she's accurate, but she's obviously not, because her channel's huge.
Yeah.
The powers that be love that she's out there filling your mind with bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, she's doing all the hard work for them.
Yeah. They don't need to step in. She can lead you down the junk conspiracy cul-de-sac. She's the one that sat on the bus and thought a woman was a Lizzie and sent the woman light and thought she was doing good. Yeah, she was so proud of herself for that. No, that's service to self. Mm-hmm. So just be very careful. There are red flags. And usually the person, the last time we're reading, she talked about when she went to talk in Orlando, and her speech was kind of humdrum and people pitied her. But that's the more accurate, when you're like, this just tough. It sucks sometimes and it's hard and there's no smoke and mirrors. It's literally you and your own grit and sweat. It's literally you facing yourself. There's nothing magical.
And that can be really uncomfortable and yucky.
Yeah.
And messy.
To try to teach otherwise is called spiritual manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just you, and it's you, and with that messiness, Paula, it's so beautiful though, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was just about to say, there's so much beauty in that though, and so much reward from that.
Like, the most beautiful moments I've had in my yoga experience, the most God-filled moments, has been when I have been on my yoga mat, sweating, covered in sweat. My hair looks like Albert Einstein because it's so sweaty. I probably have my yoga pants on backwards because it's so damn early in the morning. And I've been shaking on the verge of tears and thinking I can't, I'm physically broken and shaken. I can't do another handstand. I can't do another back bend. And then my teacher walks up and either says, "Wife fearing," or says, "Do it again." So they don't want us talking about that. So in those moments when I'm a hot mess express and I probably have my pants on backwards and I'm shaking and I can't, my mat's covered in sweat. I got multiple sweat towels around, and my teacher comes up to me those moments, and in that moment where I think I can't go on any further, and he says, "Do it again," whatever that is, a back bend, a headstand, a handstand, whatever, catching my ankles in a back, whatever. And I do it again, that point where I feel broken because I've trusted my teacher. That's when God happens. That's when the magic within, because my teacher can see that in that moment. We just got to push a little bit further, and there's going to be a breakthrough.
And then that breakthrough happens. Yeah.
And it's dirty.
And that's where the magic is.
Yeah. And it's not special. Literally, most of the time, it's so early in the morning, you're lucky if my pants are not on inside out. You go into the Mysore room that morning and people don't have, you go to the Vinyasa flow classes, they have the cute little Lululemons and matching. No, that's not, you don't see that in Ashtanga. No one matches. It's too early in the morning. People don't have hairstyles. They're there to do the hard work. And so in that moment is so special. And so just be real. There's nothing fantastical about a spiritual experience. It's very real and it's very raw. And don't be manipulated by these fake people who are selling you snake oil, right?
Yeah.
You are more powerful than you think you are. The same God who made the Rocky Mountains made you. So you don't think you have the ability to find enlightenment? You don't need a magical tanning bed to come in and bibbity boppity boo you to enlightenment. You already have everything you need in your body. Mm-hmm. Right? You don't need a cannibal
cult.
You
just got to activate it.
Right. You don't need a cannibal cult to give you a cracker and juice and tell you now you're saved. No, you save yourself.
Yeah.
You save yourself. So, all right, Paula, I know you got to hop off, but you guys, again, if you want to join us for the open house, send us an email either to info@theesotericacademy.com or my channel, esotericland@gmail.com. I'll put both those emails down in the description box below. We would love to have you. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on this. And I want to put it out to our audience. If you have started a spiritual practice, a physical practice, if you feel comfortable, share your experiences with people.
Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, whether that's training for a marathon or even for a 5K or yoga or whatever it is, Tai Chi.
Yeah, doing different hiking trips and things like that. Yeah, anything.
I want to hear about that point where you were so broken and so tired and you just pushed a little further and a breakthrough happened. I want to hear about that and how miraculous it was. You're a living, breathing miracle. So why would you look for something outside of yourself when you yourself are the miracle? So anyway, all right, you guys, for my channel, all Paula's links will be down in the description box below. Please make sure you subscribe to Paula and subscribe to our Substacks too, so you can keep in touch with us. But the shadow banning is very real. So anyway, guys.
Well, thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.